Hey everyone, welcome back to Detour. This is my series called Tales from Hell. It's interviewing a lot of my friends across different industries. Today we have Michael Katz, CEO and co-founder of mParticle, a SaaS software business, and someone I really look up to, an entrepreneur that's had some big exits. He recently raised a fundraising round of $45 million. He is someone that gave me a lot of information on this podcast, actually, specifically in terms of leadership and even the way to approach the thoughts amongst your company and how to get people to get behind your vision. He has a lot of experience with leading large teams. And I think you guys will appreciate the conversation. One, how he handled 2008, how he's handling today, and that there's a silver lining. Things do get better. So let's get into it. Thank you. All right, guys, we are back with another episode of Tales from Hell with my good friend, Michael Katz. I mean, I probably talk to Michael, I don't know, 100 times a day.
Easily
100 times a day. Michael has really interesting perspective. Similar to me, he was running a business in 2008, and he's obviously running a successful software business today. But Michael, can you give people a little background on what you do right now?
Yeah, sure. So currently I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of a company called mParticle, and we are a customer data platform. So we work with a large number of consumer brands and help them unify the data that's created as a result of people going to their websites and apps and all the data that's stored across multiple systems. And we create a unified view of the customer, and then we make it really easy to connect that data to the systems that they use to grow their business. So kind of very operational infrastructure that automates a bunch of otherwise tedious and manual work.
Got it. So it falls under like SaaS software. Is that correct?
Exactly right. Yep.
Okay. And in 2008, what were you doing?
So my last company was a company called Interclick. We were in the advertising technology space, and we were bootstrapped, so we didn't have a ton of working capital on hand. And 2008 rolled around, and we kind of got punched in the face. We weren't really sure what to do. There was a lot of growth kind of leading up to that point. But from 08 to 09, like we made it through the financial crisis, and we actually ended up growing 150% year over year. So I feel like I have some decent perspective, and look, make no mistake, I was scared as hell going through it, but we got through it. Life continued, and I think like the thing that you have to remember, going back to then or now, is like, for a company, your outcome is not predetermined, and there's more than one type of outcome in a time of crisis.
Got it. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting perspective. So in 2008, you're in the advertising industry, financial crisis, and similar to now, we are now officially in a financial crisis as well as a health crisis. What was advertising like? Like, did people stop spending money, or did you guys just find new business that allowed you to survive? Or like, what was the attitude in the company? Because everyone now is scrambling, right? Everyone's using pivot as the word, like, we got to pivot. Did you guys actually have to pivot, or was it kind of, because you guys were in the digital space, it didn't affect you guys the same way it did the rest of the world?
Yeah, so there was a lot that happened, right? So some advertisers stopped spending money. Some spent more money. Ultimately, I think in retrospect, there was a flight to value. So part of our pivot or our evolution during that period of time was we needed to focus on the thing that we were really good at and how we could help our customers, right? So thinking less about the world as being like a vendor that sells something and being much more of a partner that can help other companies with something. And so part of it was, we changed our pricing model to be really focused on performance, right? So we knew that everybody was going to hunker down. There was going to be large cuts across brand advertising as a whole, and everybody just wanted business results because everybody was just trying to make it through. And so the big move that we made during this period of time was we just changed our pricing model to absorb more risk and ultimately not charge our customers unless we could produce results for them. Because I think like in the world of software, you're either helping people make money or you're saving people money. And you have to kind of strip away everything else. And so it became really easy for us to operate that way. Like once the fear and the panic had subsided, we started to find our rhythm. And then, fast forward, I don't know, 18 months or so, the world was kind of back to normal.
So, okay, fast forward to today. You're in the software business today. You're not in advertising. You're more business to business. How's that world holding up?
Yeah, so I would say it really depends. If you read the headlines, they're scary. If you hear stories from certain companies, it can be scary. But ultimately, what we've seen is that it really depends on three things. What type of like geographic risk do you have? What type of solution-based risk do you have? And then who are the types of companies that you're selling to? So what type of like vertical-based risk do you have? What we're seeing is that certain verticals, so e-commerce, streaming media, distance learning, anything on demand, delivery, groceries are all doing really, really well. The types of companies that are getting hit hardest are travel and hospitality and anything that requires congregation of lots of people. So restaurants and events and things like that. So you have to go beyond the headlines and you have to start to parse out the information a little bit more.
That's interesting. So do you feel where you sit today, because of how you go where the demand is, right? So now all these mobile players that, because physical retail is essentially dead and physical interaction is dead for the short term, all those people need your services because they're scaling at like probably unprecedented levels. Like we've probably never seen growth like this in some e-commerce businesses. And so it's easy for you guys to go chase that business. Do you assume that in the future that this will be the core focus, and that like if someone else is in a different industry that takes care of hospitality and travel, and given where you sit, like how long is that going to take to even show signs of life? Because you'll probably see it first because you're working with them from a data perspective.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is like one, from a customer base, we're not we don't have too much like concentration risk in any one vertical. So yeah, so we're seeing like the individual trends. Look, I think this transformation that's happening, right, is probably somewhat permanent, right? Because this is like, we're not going back to work next week. We're probably not going back to work the following week or the week after that. Most habits form somewhere between like 21 and 45 days. So I think, some of the things that people have to acknowledge is the fact that like behavior is just going to change. Look, I like the fact that everybody's washing their hands a lot more, and we don't have like awkward handshakes and so to me it's just like we're doing things differently in a way that I think like just becomes ultimately the new normal. I think for us, we see it across like QSR, we work with, all of the largest QSR brands. Like the shift to mobility and ordering ahead, and in some cases partnering with on-demand services like Postmates and others where you can get anything delivered. I think all that does is, or all this is done is kind of accelerate that change. So I think, one of the stats is that digital is about like 9 or 10% of retail. I think that jumps to 25% and never looks back.
Yeah, that's interesting because the more interesting thing you mentioned was um, behavioral change is so big. Like there were these large corporations that were fighting kind of evolving. Like I would say for the most part, most, with the exception of people like a Walmart, were really behind the curve digitally. And now like everyone has a gun to their head, like we have to figure it out or we're gone. And
Yeah.
so, but I'm still talking to a lot of like small business owners that are very reliant on like uh, live either events or hospitality or whatever it may be. And I had a conversation with someone in the events business today that felt that, oh, by Q4, my business should be back again. And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, I don't. A year from now, maybe that happens. But like,
Mhm.
if you were, what advice would you give to someone that's in that world? Would you say be patient or like it's time to figure it out? Because I tell people like, yo, shit hit the fan. If you don't figure it out now, I don't see how you exist.
Yeah. I mean, look, you have to embrace the struggle, right? Or like, in other words, you have to address the elephant in the room head on, and pretending that you're not about to go through a really tough time is probably like the worst approach you can take. And look, we can't always control the situation that we find ourselves in, but we do get to choose ultimately like how we can respond. It's a lesson in leadership. For anybody that has whether it's a small team, medium-sized team, big team, like the people that work for you and that you lead ultimately want to believe in what they're doing. They want to participate in meaningful work, right? And quite frankly, they want to use the work that they're doing day in and day out to not have to think about just like all the crazy shit that's going on around them. So
Yeah.
you have to give people like a sense of reality in order to give them something to believe in. But I'd say like the thing, even outside like the company stuff, leadership is it's all about growth, right? Like because we all have our fears, and probably nobody has more fear than the CEO because you have the most amount of information. And so like the true work of leadership like starts within. Like I like to say like leadership it's an inside job.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to get the team through it, or you're going to get your company through it, like you just have to kind of look within and say, what do I need to do in order to kind of help myself through this, right? Pretending that it's not there, that it's just going to go away, is just avoiding the issue altogether. And then ultimately, like, you have to keep the team calm and focused, right? Because there is so much that you could freak out about. You could stay on social media all day and read people's tweets and read the headlines, how the sky is falling. And with that, it's like there's so much that goes beyond like what you say. There's a principle called like the 7-38-55 rule, which is like only 7% of what you say is the words that you use. 38% is the tone, and then 55% is your body language, right?
Yeah.
So you have to project confidence onto the team in order to rally the troops. And you can't lead through authority. You can't just like pound the table and say, hey, this is how it's going to be. I'm the CEO, do it my way, or else everybody's going to die. Like, you have to inspire people.
Yeah.
And that's not always easy.
No, it's not easy, especially like I'll give you, for me, last week was a very frustrating, exhausting week. And there's a few times where I just like flew off the handle, because it's like between figuring out remote working and dealing with family, dealing with, I don't have any certainty in my business, and then people constantly challenging you on every decision. It's everything is questioned, which I get. I appreciate that everyone cares enough to question, but it gets frustrating, and like sometimes I fly off the handle, and like and it's an interesting thing, because I do agree. The thing that I've been focusing my team on is like, there is opportunity out there, and I'm going to step on the gas where I see opportunity. And we're not going to ignore the fact that our business is going to struggle in some areas, but we also have to accept the fact that that part of the business may never be the same. Let's go find this new opportunity. And I think we're doing a good job of it today. It's obviously going to be challenging if we have to do it for 6 months. Because I don't remember, 2008 felt like a Band-Aid ripping off, and then 6 months later, like, we figured out the future. I don't know. I have, my hope is it's something like that again, because like, I don't remember a crisis. I've obviously only been in business roughly about 20 years, but every crisis seems like there's been a bounce back within 6 to 9 months. There's been some sort of recovery. So I'm hopeful we're on that path as well.
Yeah. And I would just say, like, the thing is, you also can't just like say something once to everybody and expect them to like get it right away. And that can be like really frustrating, because you're like, oh, I thought like I was clear when I said this, and I thought we were in agreement on what needed to happen. Like, it requires repetition, a lot of almost like marketing, right? Which also requires a lot of patience in a time where you also have to operate in a way where you're moving really fast. So it's like you're getting pulled in all these different directions. It's not easy, but look, like, life will go on. Like, we will rebound from this. We've rebounded from kind of every major crisis. And you have to, again, one of the things I said early on, it's like, you have to embrace it. You have to take it as an opportunity for growth, right? Think about, it's like, think about what life is going to be like on the other side. Like, you have to visualize what it'll be like when things do get back to normal and there is that bounce back. And then you have to pause and you have to think about, like, well, what are the things that we're going to wish that we did between now and then? And those are really the things that you need to be doubling down on and tripling down on.
That's amazing. Good. Well, thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate your time. This is really helpful. I actually learned something too.
Love it. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.